Hello and welcome to the session. Now for every Java project, uh, we need to interact with external world. Now we can interact with external world via network, and the most predominant thing is we need to process the file, we need to interact with files, we need to read the files, and we need to write some content and so on. Now there are different types of files. If you see here, text file, CSV file, TSV file, INI file, YAML file, properties file, PDF, zip, XML, JSON, XML, Excel file, and a plethora of different types of files. Now I have come up with this different 11 types of files which normally are required for day-to-day input output processing. So let's see everything in detail. This will definitely help you throughout your career. Let's get started. So now the first thing and basic thing is a text file. So this is one text file here. If you see, I have to read and I have to write into it. Let's start with very simple thing. So I have this text file here, one simple text file. So there are 3 lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this file line by line, and I will update some content and I will overwrite some content. Okay, so let me just close it and let's see. Now I have this class, let's say process text file. So I have come up with some utility methods which you can reutilize once you have access to the source code. Okay, so I have this method called as read line content and change line content and save. Okay, so let us first see what is read line content. So I have to pass the path of the file and I have to pass which line I want to read. This is a custom method. You can change it as per your requirement. So I have given this proper documentation here, and now you see read line content. So first it will check whether the file exists or not, and then using buffered reader class, which is ready-made available in Java, using that we can read the line. And if you see here, read line, there's a method called as with the object of buffered reader, you can call a method called as read line. So that will read a particular line. Now you have to, if you want to read the entire file, then you have to go with a while loop, and you have to read line by line. And if a particular line content is null, that means the file doesn't exist anymore. So, or it has reached to the end of the file, then you just come out of the while loop and just close the buffer reader class object. And that's how it will be there for all different types of files. So this is just a mechanism I have used. It's up to you. If you want to modify, you can modify. Now I have done with different catch exception. This is totally up to you what detailed level of exception you want to catch, and you want to throw the exception or you want to assert. Now there's a check here that required line content and actual line content. So accidentally, if you want to read a line number, let's say line number 100, which is not there in the actual text file, so there is a check here. Right, so this is about reading the file, and this is about changing the content and save. So independently, you need the file path, you need the required line count where you want to change the content, and the updated line content. So again, some check here for file exists or not. And if you see here in the buffer reader, I'm reading line by line, and the moment I get the same line number, I will just do append here. Okay, so I will just append here. So new line content I will add, and I will add a line separator, that is new line character at the end. So this logic is one way to implement it. Of course you can do it as per your requirement, and there's a check here that whether the actual line content and actual line content is different or not. So then only I will write into that file and I will close it. Okay, of course there are some file not found and I exceptions are here. So let's see how uh, how it works. So first of all, we have seen in the actual file there are only 3 lines here. Okay, so 3 lines is there, and I will just close it and I will run it. Right, so uh, read line 0, it has printed today is the 0th line. Then the line number 2 is hello Sunday, and now next is it has changed the line content. So it will, instead of hello Sunday, I think it will be hello weekend and hello again. Now if you see here I am updating line number 2, which actually exists in the text file, Now here I'm updating line number 8. So there are only 3 or 4 lines in the text file. So this has returned false, and this has returned earlier content was there, so it has returned true. Now let's go and check the file content, right? So if you see hello weekend is here, and the line number 8 uh, line update function has failed because there is no line number 8 here. So this is about a very simple text file. Now we will be proceeding for remaining other files. If you see, we have a CSV file, a TSV file. So what is CSV file? Comma separated values. So sometimes instead of putting the data into database, CSV file is preferred. So let's see an example. Right, so if you see it's kind of a table where the first line is basically the header or the title, and second line onwards you start adding the data. Now this is a very simple file structure, also used many places. Why? Because it has its inherent advantages that the processing of CSV files will be fast, and everything is separated by comma, so separation is also easy, and it is easy to look into it. Now, if you see here, there is some content here. So employee ID, employee name, salary, age, gender. So there are, I think, 5 entries here, and 4 data rows in the CSV file. So this is also one of the common file, and this is also processed. So let me just close it, and let us see what we can do with CSV file. So of course, we can read the raw content. So we provide the path, and we read a particular line content, so line number 1 or line number 3. Now also what we can do is read specific column of a specific row. So instead of reading the entire row, we can read row and column combination. Okay, so we will see what is the internal details. Now we can also change the specific column of a specific row. So here it is reading the row and column, row by column, and here it is updating it. Okay, so let us see what is this read line. Read a particular raw content, read row content. So if you see, I'm using a buffered reader just like your text file, and I'm reading line by line, and that's it. So this file, CSV file reading line by line, is same as your text file. Okay, now this function here, read specific column of specific row. Now what happens is once you read a particular line, let's say this CSV file. Okay, so this is basically separated by commas. So now if you want to read a specific column on that particular row, what you can do is you can split this by comma, and then you traverse it, or you check a particular index where you want to check the column number, and you get the value. So for example, like this. So now it is split by this CSV split. So what is CSV split? It is a comma character, and after splitting you get the particular column count. Okay, and that will be saved in your one variable, and that you can return. So this is basically reading a column of a specific row. Now, of course, if a specific row does not have that particular column, or if the required column count is more, obviously it will throw an exception. So those are all handled here. So of course, you can go through this code once again for easy understanding, and you can modify it as per your requirement. So this is about reading a row and a column combination. And now let us see what we can do in update or change. So in the change specific column of a specific row, what is done is basically the line itself is split here. The line itself is split, and if that particular column and row combination is found, then it is updated here. So the line is basically kept as it is, or this is updated. So updated content is allowed here. Okay, so if the column is found, then you just replace it with the new value what you want to change. So here you are getting the new value. Okay, updated column content, so that will be replaced with the existing one. So if you see here, that will be replaced with the existing one, otherwise it will be as it is. Okay, and then the new line will be added here, back to the original line, right? And at the end, this new line, the file will be written back to its original. Okay, if you see there's a append here, so the same thing, similar thing what we have done in the text file handling. So same thing we are doing it in the CSV file. So the logic is again, as I'm saying, it is just one way of implementing it, which looks to be very very optimized. But you can go ahead and change it as per your requirement, or you can make these methods as generic methods, general methods which can be available anytime, and you can just reuse it as per your requirement. Okay, so let's just run it. Okay, so before running, let us see the content of the CSV file first. So if you see here, what I'm trying to change is with this 75,000 and this value, I will be making it some negative value. Let's just run it. Okay, so both contents are changed. I can see I'm able to read some files. I'm able to read the particular row and column combination here. Okay, uh, line number 3, column 3, line number 3, column 4. So the same thing, 30 and M, that I'm able to read, and I want to change the content. So once I change, I'm able to change. I have written as true. Okay, so let's open the CSV file again. Right, so now this has become some negative value. So this way you can change the content of the CSV file, comma separated values. The same thing will be done in a new file type called as TSV file. Okay, this is a TSV file. So what is a TSV file? It is same as your CSV file. See, TSV file. So TSV file, if you see, there is the separation is by a comma, by a tab character instead of a tab, instead of a comma. If you see, everything is separated by a tab. So this is also one way of representing the data. So there are some systems who process the TSV file and some process the CSV file. Both are acceptable, both has its own advantages. So if you see in the TSV file, there is no comma here. So that is a little advantage, that no extra character is there. It is just the space is, space is more, one comma. The same thing I'll be doing here. So I will read a particular line, then I will read a particular line and column combination, and then I will change a line and column combination. So I will make these terms as a bit negative. Okay, so same as your CSV file, the functions are same, TSV, and here of course the split character is basically a tab. Okay, so TSV split by is basically a tab character, and so on. Okay, so both are changed and I'm reading a particular line. If you see, there is a one tab character difference. Now let us open the TSV file again. Okay, so if you see, these values are changed to negative. Okay, so now this is basically processing the CSV and TSV file. But point to note here that whenever it processes each and every line for these two types of files, it considers the line content as a string. Okay, so even if it is a number on all or a float or whatever, true false, it will be considered as a string only. So we have to have little extra efforts if you want to consider that as a number or a float or a boolean or any specific type of object. Okay, another type of file also used a couple of times is basically a .ini file. Now for for earlier types of files, if you want to process that file, it was done with all ready-made classes available in Java. Now ini type, and in future also we will see different types of files. For those we need to use little external jar files, or there are some third-party persons who have developed a separate Java package, separate jar files to process the different types of files. And of course this is not given by Sun Microsystem or Oracle ready-made, but because there can be a number of files which will come into market, and to parse those files and process those files, it is really difficult and really difficult to keep a track, because I think every other month, every other quarter, new type of files are coming into market, and that is really difficult to track. So third party person has to develop it. So .ini file is basically for this we have to use these particular type of classes, uh, from where I can get the classes who can process the INI file. So we have something called as Maven repository, where this separate jar files are there, where they are stored, and we can download it from there. So from now onwards, if you see, we will be processing uh, these files. So if you go to this Maven repository URL, then let's say you want to go for the latest version or whatever version you prefer. So always go for the version which is, maximum people have used it, like more number of people use this. So let's say we'll go for this, and we can download this jar file. Okay, this jar file we can download. There's something called as Maven and Gradle project. So we will also look into what is the Maven project, Gradle project in later discussion. You can have this dependency copied into the Maven. Now for now, you just download this jar file, and you can import that jar file into this particular project. Now how to import external jar files into your project is basically go to file, project structure, and if you see here, there's something called as libraries, and in the library section you can say plus, and you can import that particular jar file, or just give the parent folder path here, and under that folder whatever is available, that will be imported into your project. So I have, because different types of files are there, so I have used this additional jar files. I've imported it into current project. Okay, now let us see what is this ini file. So ini file, let's open one ini file. Okay, so in ini file, if you see, uh, in ini file, we can store the particular set of data in sections. Okay, so SRT is one section, UAT is section, load environment is one section, and we can have some data basically written in key value format. So left hand side is equal to right hand side. So this is basically key and value. Okay, here also if you see key and value. So if you want to read a particular section based on, let's say in this example, based on different environments, SIT, UAT, load, production, then we can go for this. Okay, so INI file is also used many number of times. So what can be done using INI file? So first thing is you can read a particular section, like we have seen SIT section, UAT section, load section, or whatever. So you just have to give the section name and it will read it. So let us see what is this read section. So there's a good explanation here what this method does. So you have to load one object here, ini, new ini, and the file path, and just say I object dot get a particular section name. So the section name you have to this is what you have provided here, section name, which is coming from here, load section name. Of course I have this catch, so I can catch multiple type of exception, and I can just read it. Okay, so this is about reading a particular section in an INA file. Now read specific value of specific section. Okay, so let's say you have a UAT section and you have multiple key value structure there, so you want to read the password. So let us see, right? So UAT section and you want to read the password, so it will return UAT pwd underscore user 33. Okay, so that's how you can read a particular section. Now let's say you want to read a particular section and a particular key which does not exist, okay, or it's an invalid key. So let us see what happens. It will give you a null content. Okay, so there is no key which is matching this thing. Okay, so that's why you will get something null. Okay, so how to read a specific this thing section and their particular value. Yeah, so once you are in a particular section, right, so you have a section class here, and from the section class you just say dot get key, so it will return you the value. Okay, and I'm returning the value here. Okay, rest of the things are same here, catching exception and all, but this is the core content. Now the reason I've made this individual methods, so that in future if you just reuse it, it will be easy for you for your day-to-day programming. Okay, so let's just run it and see what is happening. Right, so if you see, it has reading the load section here. So first thing is, this is the load section, then for the particular section, particular key, and this is the value. And for the same section but some invalid key, or there's something which does not exist, so you will get a null output. Fine, so this is INI file. Now let us see another important type called as YAML file. YAML YAML file. So what is YAML? It is a human friendly data serialization standard for programming languages. You can go through a couple of links here. There is some good link here also, and of course it is again a third party type of file. So we want to use some external Java classes or jar files to process this YAML file. Okay, so this is not ready-made available. So if you see here, there's a third-party person or organization. So Snake YAML is one vendor who has provided the jar files to process the uh, YAML file. So you can go to this repository and once again download the particular latest version jar file and import it into this project. Once you do that, so let us see reading YAML file. So 99% of the time, YAML file is read only. Okay, nobody writes into YAML file. It's very, very rare. So we will just see how to read a YAML file. So how to read a YAML file? I'm creating a input stream object here, and if you see here, I'm reading the path as a resource. Okay, get resource as stream. This is little important. YAML file has to be read as a stream only. Okay, so I'm providing a path here, file YAML. So let us see one YAML file, the content. Right, so this is how it looks like. YAML file, it has some sections here. So if you see, there's a task and some name here and there are some key value pairs here. Okay, this is again specific for specific projects or specific requirement. You might need it for all in only specific projects, but I'm just covering it so that we know how to do it. Okay, so I'm reading here, and here basically there's a YAML object is there, YAML class object, and you just have to say load this file, load all, and this input stream object, and you have to just iterate over it. Now here what it is doing is it is iterating through each and every iterator object here, each object, and that is what we are getting it here. Okay, and ultimately you get to the string. Now there are multiple different contents available in YAML file, but this is sufficient for reading a simple YAML file. So let's just run it and see what is happening. Right, so if you see, this YAML file content is exactly same what we have actually got into notepad editor, and we have seen it there. So same thing is applicable here. So YAML file content uh, may be useful for different specific purposes based on your requirement. Right, so now let us see properties file. This is also a very common type of file, dot properties, and this is also used for storing some one-time data content. So let us see what is the properties file. So this is a properties file. So here, if you see from automation perspective, Selenium automation perspective, you can store the Chrome driver, exe path, and so on. So this is, so what is a properties file? Basically a key value pair. Okay, so if you see, it's a key and value. Okay, key and value everywhere. If you see key and value, so this is why properties file are used and bit popular, because it's a very simple structure. It's just a key value pair, so you can almost read it like a hash map. Now we can read the properties file most of the time. Let's say 90% of the time you can read from the properties file, or some projects or some requirement is there where you can change the properties file. You can update, let's say you want to update this new version of Chrome driver 81, so you can do that one also. So this is how, this is a simple explanation of properties file, and let us see how it can be done. Right, so first thing is get a particular property. So this is the path I will be passing here, the properties file path, and I want to get a particular property. So let's say Chrome driver path 81, or some username or password, or some key, or any kind of whatever token, any kind of a value. So I have to give the property name and I will get the value. So it's kind of a key value pair structure. Again, I'm getting some property which does not exist. So if you are getting a property which is not there, basically the keys, this particular key is not there in the properties file, it will return null. Okay, now set this property. So if I want to update a property or change its content, so I have a method here. So just pass on the property name and whatever new name you want to pass. So earlier it was Chrome 81 slash Chrome driver.exe. Now I have changed it to Chrome driver 81 new and remaining content. So that's what, once it is changed, and once this is value of this property changed, and after that you just do a get, it will return this new value. Okay, and also you can you can open the file and you can check it manually also. So let us see this, what is happening here. So properties file, so I have this class called as properties. I think it is ready-made available in Java. So yeah, java.util.properties. So it is ready-made available. You don't need to import any external files, external classes. And if you see, I'm using a hash map here. Okay, and what I'm doing is properties file dot load, and I'm doing an input stream and this file path, and string property name. So that will be in a set, and from that set I'm just filling one hash map here. So once I have content available in the hash map, then I can process multiple things. So if you see, the return type of this method is one hash map. Okay, string and object. Now why second key is a string and value is object? Because sometimes you might have some numbers also, or some boolean, or some other type of content. So that's why the value is of type object. So okay, so I'm filling one hash map here, and that's it. So I'm returning one hash map. Okay, so let's this is basically reading all the properties into one hash map. Other thing is read all properties. So it will return one properties file object. You can return a properties file object also, or you can return an hash map also. Anything is fine. Okay, based on your requirement. Okay, and in this example it is get a particular property. So just pass on the file name and the property name, and it will return you the value. Okay, so this properties class object properties class object prop dot get property, and give the property name, it will return you the value. Okay, it's very simple, very straightforward. Okay, set a particular property. So let's see what is the set particular property. So we have this set property direct method is there from the properties class, where it will directly set the property. Now once the property is set, then you would want to save that into a file. So that's what it is happening here. So I'm doing a file output stream object here, and I'm passing properties dot store, and I'm closing that file. So that's how you write into a file. Okay, you write once again the properties file uh, back to the hard disk. Okay, there is some logic here whether the property file is set or not. If it is true or false, then it will assert based on that. Right, so now let us run it and see what is happening. Right, so once again, so here I am doing a get property of Chrome driver 81, so it is returning me the correct value. Now I want to read a invalid properties, it has given me null. Then I want to set a particular property to this one, so it has returned to the properties set correctly, and so it will be Chrome driver 81 will be set to Chrome driver, Chrome 81 new and this thing. So that's what is happening here. So the new value is this one. Okay, earlier value was Chrome 81, now it is Chrome 81 new and other thing. Of course, you can open the properties file once again and you can check the content of it. Okay, so yeah, properties file. So let's continue our discussion for remaining type of files in the upcoming sessions. Thank you.